This is a Stock Trading Reality Podcast, episode 139.
That's probably it's going to be my biggest hurdle with trading, is to just step back a little bit before making a decision. Slow down, yeah.
This is the Stock Trading Reality Podcast, where you get to see the realistic side of a trader's journey. Get inspired and stay motivated by everyday normal people who are currently on their journey to trading success. He is really bad at prejudging people. Clay Trader.
Yeah, and not only is it just a terrible thing to do as a human being, but to really summarize just how pitiful I am at it, long story short, but freshman year of high school, I played football, and I just bring that up because, football is a fall sport, so you start practicing at the end of the summer, and I was going to a new high school, not the public school that I grew up in, so I literally really didn't know anybody, and during football practice, I saw, this kid, his name was Tom, and I was just like, I can't stand that kid. I do not like that, and I just did not like Tom. I thought it was just bad. I didn't like him. Fast forward to my freshman year of college. Guess who my college roommate is in the dorm? Tom. So that just goes to show how good of a prejudger I am. And usually when I prejudge people, they're the people that I'm like, oh, wow, they're actually great. And the people that I'm like, oh, man, I wish I want to hang out with them. They're all the ones that turn out to be just total jerks. And so I don't know what it is, but like I said, I shouldn't even be prejudging people, and I think I've gotten better at that. But B, not only is it bad, but I'm just terrible at it anyway, so I shouldn't be doing it for that reason. But, that's what I always kind of laugh. And I should note, Tom, it's not like he listens to these. Maybe he does, but I've told him this many times before. I was like, man, freshman year, I couldn't stand you. But here we are. Now we're sleeping in a bunk bed together. Well, he was in the bed above me, not... You guys know what I mean. We were in the bunk bed together. But, Ches, do you prejudge people, or are you a decent human being?
I caught myself doing that probably around the same time frame as you, kind of out of high school into college, and I was in the same boat. People that I thought I wanted to kind of be friends with, I ended up disliking the most and wanted nothing to do with them.
Yes,
and that kind of opened my eyes up to, you really kind of limit the opportunities. Even in Chicago, is a very, very much more shallow person appearances. Just stupid crap like that. It's called being a child, a teenager in young 20s, whatever. But now, I strike up conversations with just about anybody, because honestly, you never know who you're going to run into. And, just a short story for that is, when I was traveling on my motorcycle, I struck up a conversation randomly with this guy and this lady, and he has a patent on the porta potty, whatever the porta potty is, and he's a millionaire from the porta potty. So I would have never had that conversation if I didn't just strike up a conversation, not knowing anything about these folks. So I've definitely gotten better with it over the years, but I was totally in the same boat as you, around the same time as you too.
Yeah, that's good stuff, because that's you can't really get in a more valid point than that. It's like you never know, so why not just give it a try and talk with somebody? So that's the porta potty. Nice, real nice. So all right, well, Ches, with these fun facts, I feel like we could have a podcast in and of this, but we'll move on. The show must go on.
Not sure the listeners would appreciate that much. Just Ches and Clay having a chat.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
Who knows? Maybe.
Yeah, reminiscing. Yeah, maybe that'll be another podcast we have to start. Is the reminiscing of. Yeah. Anyways, today we are talking with fellow chat room guest Chris, and he is. Yeah, new but not new, but he's in an interesting spot, and he is, well, I don't want to offer that spoiler, so I guess I won't say that, but I'll just leave it at good interview. And surprisingly, well, he's not old, and Ches summarized it perfect, so I'm going to spoil this, but just keep in mind his outlook on things, his attitude, the tone of his voice, just how he kind of portrays himself, and then later on, there's a big payoff to that, and Ches, brings up a great point with that. To which I fully agree. So just keep in mind his whole attitude, his whole tone, and kind of the impression that he's giving you from that perspective as the interview unfolds. And in my mind, at least, there's a really good, payoff at the end of that, which symbolizes kind of a great learning lesson in terms of how we need to kind of have an outlook in terms of this whole business we call trading. So without further ado, let's hop in and hear about Chris and his journey. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hi, Clay. How are you?
I think we may have a record, and both of you can chime in, but I think this is either our fourth or fifth attempt to do this. The first attempt was on me. There was something going on, and I had to watch my kids. The second was on Ches, because you had some real estate stuff going on, Ches, right?
That's right.
And then the third was just a mic issue. So I guess the fourth.
Yeah.
So here we are, our fourth attempt, and we have success. So if anything, Chris, you get the Patience Award of the Year.
The booby prize?
Yeah, there you go. I mean, that was we went through a lot, but here we are. If only people knew just all the blood, sweat, and tears that go on behind the scenes.
That went into
so I thank you for your patience, and here we are. So let's get this party started. That's been quite a while in the making. So, Chris, where did all this start for you? Where did you hear about the markets, and kind of what got you interested enough to want to get more serious about it to the point of, actually getting hands-on with it?
Well, actually, yeah. So, it really kind of started for me many years ago. My grandfather was, he was always interested in what was going on with the markets, and he had made some investments in his earlier days through a guy that he knew who was actually a Stifel Nicholas employee now, but so he had his own guy, and he was always talking to me about you should look at this, you should look at that. Check the papers, watch the stocks, see what they're doing, and I kind of half-heartedly did it, was kind of like, oh, that's too much money for me. I'm not, that's beyond what, my understanding of things as far as like how economies work and how the market works. And just, I never really had the desire to jump into it.
How old were you at that point?
Oh, I was in the early teens,
okay.
12, 13, okay. 14, something like that.
Bless your grandpa's heart for already starting to chirp in your ear at that time in your life. Yeah. But you thought it was too complicated.
Well, yeah, it was, I was a musician, I was playing guitar and, playing baseball and, thinking about chasing chicks and stuff like that at that age. Money for me was like, oh yeah, money grows on trees. What do I care about that? But soon enough, obviously, you get in your late teens and you want to buy something, and you're like, oh well, I don't have any money. Now what do I do?
So you pretty much had the bird chirping in your ear, and you didn't really do much with it. And what finally occurred where you decided, hey, kind of the second time around, when did that come into focus?
Well, okay, so we can fast forward real quick, if that's so. My 20s and 30s, total blur. Have no idea what happened those years. Completely gone. But I started working with a company who had a little 401k, and they would let you micromanage it a little bit, so you could pick the different funds that you wanted to you wanted to be you wanted to invest as far as your 401k goes, and you could actually switch that up, so you could stick with this fund for a little bit, and then you could move to a different one. And it was kind of interesting. It really got me into like watching what was going on with this particular fund.
Well, I was just going to say, did that kind of lead you to kind of watch these funds and how they're performing, and did you drive your whoever was kind of the broker advisor nuts by changing over every other week, or how often were you actually kind of micromanaging this stuff?
Well, so obviously as you get older, the things that are almost invisible to you as a kid become a little bit more clear. And one of those things is, things don't happen overnight all the time. patience, and especially in like an investing sense, is well, I know you guys might disagree with me, but you know, it goes back to, you know, what you guys talk about trading with your emotions. You know, you want to try to stay away from that as much as possible. You know, and that's not just for trading, that's kind of with everything, but we can talk about that more later. But as far as, you know, kind of letting things happen and, you know, seeing what's going on first before, you know, making any decisions, you know, that's really where that whole mentality, as far as you know, my understanding of it, kind of started. So
okay, so you just saw the funds, started to track the funds, and
yeah.
How long was this going on for? Was this like multiple months, multiple years? How exactly? What sort of time frame are we looking at?
So to kind of tie in with, you know, talking about my grandfather. Well, you know, he had made some decent money throughout his years owning a business. He owned a beauty supply distributorship. So way back when manufacturers weren't selling directly to, you know, salons and you know, stores and stuff like that, they had distributors who would, you know, obviously you guys know what a distributor is, so I don't have to elaborate on that, but you know, he did fairly well in that business and, you know, invested a lot of that money. Well, obviously 2008 happened, and unfortunately his guy, literally I want to say like 6 months after everything kind of bottomed out, just sold everything. You know, no holding on to it, no, you know, maybe moving it around or adjusting some, or even, you know, even buying at that point. He just sold everything. He took like a $300,000 loss.
Yeah.
So that to me, that was, you know, that was like, I just wanted to shake the guy. You know, I'm like, well, you know, like, what are you doing? Like, I could have did better than that in my sleep. You know, like, not even trying. Yeah. But, you know, I mean, the anger sometimes, you know, sometimes it gets the best of you. Sometimes it moves you in a direction where you need to be, you know. So I kind of took that, you know, life lesson and, you know, said, well, you know, maybe I should start thinking about getting involved in it, you know, getting involved in trading, you know, maybe, you know, starting to learn the basic stuff, and then maybe move on to some, you know, education, which was what brought me to you, and really, you know, kind of dive in, you know, what I've been kind of waiting to do. I guess this was the cue for me to really move forward with it, and it, you know, obviously that was, you know, quite a few years ago, almost 10 years ago now, but
okay, so
but yeah,
10 years ago. That was funny. Ches just Skyped me and said, "Hey, why don't you double check what year this is?" But are you? I don't know, Ches, but did he hack our Skype conversation? Because he literally.
I think so.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. But so all right, 10ish years ago is when this is happening. So about 2007ish, 8ish, and you made the comment. You know, well, I just want to get started. You know, I want to, you know, learn more about trading. So at that, you know, approximately 10 years ago. What did that mean? How did you define that? You know, what was the action behind those words? Did you hop on Google, or, I mean, what exactly did you do to kind of start to get your feet wet in the world of trading?
Well, so, I mean, so right around that time, it was only a couple years after that where I was, you know, actually micromanaging my 401k, and I started doing it a little bit more, and then, you know, obviously I got a few emails from from paychecks saying, yeah, you might want to slow up on that a little bit.
Nice.
You know, so yeah, I mean, you know, and I took it as a grain of salt. I was like, but there was a few other things, you know. So I played baseball for many years, amateur baseball. I played in college, and then just kind of fell into a group of guys that.
Where'd you play in college?
Just liked it. UW Milwaukee.
Okay.
Yeah. So local, yeah. It was actually had a pretty good baseball program at the time, and I didn't want to move, so So that's kind of how that ended up.
Hey man, if you get to do something you like in college, then go for it.
Yeah, and then, it turns out college wasn't for me at the time. I didn't get my degree until 2006, but but I did play baseball, and then, once I was done with school, I moved that into, playing with a group of guys. It's kind of like bar league, but there's a couple of former pros and stuff like that to play, but anyway, that's going back many years. And for a long time, I played with a guy he's an investment advisor, and actually right now he writes for Seeking Alpha. He was writing for oh man, what was the name of that Market something
Market
or other?
Watch,
Market Watch.
Market Watch,
yeah. So I had some conversations with him right around that time. When I was like thinking about in like 2009, when I was thinking about getting into it a little bit more. So he's like, well, you should come talk to me and this and that, and he's a businessman and he gets paid for what he does. So he wasn't like throwing out a lot of free information for me, but he gave me some books to read, which I actually never did. Although they are on the list of things to do for sure. But, it was more just in conversation. He's a big energy guy. So whatever's going on with oil wells and natural gas fracking and stuff like that, like he's all over that stuff. But yeah, to make a long story short, he's like, why don't you just get a TDA account? And I'm like, well, how do I do that? How do I do that? It was like, you just, you put some money in, you sign up, and that's how it goes. So yeah. And then there was, I played baseball with another guy who's kind of a tech, well, I shouldn't say tech, but he's like an eternal college student, one of those guys who.
Yeah, I know a couple of those.
He's been in college for 20 years. He's got like 4 degrees, and he's working on his computer science degree. Well, he started working for some investor, and he's like, oh yeah, it's real easy, man. He's like, you just sign up this way, and here's how you do it. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna sign up, throw some money in there, and then shortly after that, I got a couple of recommendations of, things to buy and hold and stuff like that. And,
now, where did you get these recommendations, though? Is this from your baseball buddies or that guy who's writing for Market Watch? Or?
Yeah, like the Kirk Spano is his name. So Kirk, put me in, he's like, he gave me a couple of options. He's like, you might want to look at this, you might want to look at that. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to do my own thing too. I'm going to, do some due diligence before I actually buy anything. And then, so part of that due diligence was to, start messing around on the internet, see what I can come up with. And that's actually what, that's what brought me to you guys.
So, all right. So messing around on the internet. Now, where did this lead you? Did this lead you to StockTwits, Twitter, iHub? I know it's going to be one of these, but I'm just not sure which one yet.
Well, so iHub was one of the first. That was one of the first things that that flashed across my Google search, and I was like, well, let me check it out and see what's up. And actually, though, I should say, and to be truthful and honest about the whole thing, is I watched quite a few. I watched quite a few of Clay's YouTube videos before I ever started looking at stuff. It just happened to be the first thing that I came across, along with some other videos of these guys pounding their chest and telling everybody how they make millions of dollars a day, with 2 or 3 clicks and stuff like that.
What? That's on YouTube? That's shocking to hear that you came across stuff like that. That's wow.
Can't believe it.
I know. It's hard to believe.
Yeah, it's pretty much there's a video on YouTube of somebody doing just about everything.
That is true. So the videos that you came across of mine, were these just the video chart analyses, or were they just some of the?
Yeah, well, some of them were the the chart analysis. Some of them were the live trading.
Okay, so a variety.
You know,
then.
I tried. I just kind of got like a grab bag of of what you had. There. The things that resonated with me was, well, first of all, like the trade without emotion thing. It was like, it kind of just hit me because my friend Kirk, that's his big, that's one of his big things is to eliminate the emotion. Get away from the emotion. You're not going to make good decisions when you're fired up or super happy or super depressed. Just close it down and lock it down and keep it from affecting your decisions. And actually, having played baseball for years and that what I do is I pitch. That was my thing. And it took me a long time to discover with pitching that anytime I would let the adversity of emotion affect my performance, it was bad. It didn't turn out good, right? So
yeah, I can see that, because pitching is a very mental thing. Like it's not even
Yeah.
necessarily you against the batter. And not that I pitch in like Little League and stuff, but it's almost you against yourself when it comes to the whole pitching thing. Now, my one quick question here is, were you actually trading when you had stumbled across my videos, or were you still in the research phase? Because you had mentioned you got some tips from your buddies, but did you ever act on those tips, or what exactly was your trading status at the time then you were kind of doing all this YouTube research and stuff?
Well, so I had money in a TDA account. The first thing I bought was I bought a couple thousand shares of a biotech stock, penny stock.
Do you remember the ticker?
Yeah, our favorite thing. Yeah, it's PTGF, Portage Pharmaceutical. PTGEF. Yeah.
All right, that one's not ringing a bell, but anyways.
Yeah, it's OTC. So interestingly enough, you alerted today on Biohaven, on BHVN.
Oh yeah, the bull pole in the Bear River. I remember that alert. Yep.
Was a big volume day for them because they got some bad news. So I'll try to keep this as quick as possible.
No, this is your show, man. You go with whatever. We're just having a conversation. Go with it. No need to rush anything.
Yeah. Well, I want to let you guys talk too. I'm looking at my bar here.
Trust me, listeners sometimes are like, you guys talk too much. They want to hear the guests. So this is all about you. So don't worry about that.
Yeah. So anyway, so Biohaven's novel drug, Biotech. They have a their particular pro drug is one that it uses glutamate receptors to treat neurological diseases. So it's kind of a feel good, feely good kind of a stuff. Like Alzheimer's is one of their big things. Spinocerebellar ataxia is one of the things that they're in phase 3 for right now. But anyway, so they so Portage Biotech, they had their own things going on, but they also invested like $6 million in Biohaven, and Biohaven went public in May, which basically, so Portage actually turned a $6 million investment into, so that bought them a good 49% of Biohaven when they went public. So Portage made like 160 mil off of that investment, and they haven't really done anything with it yet. But so they're them being part owner now. I think it's 30%. They got rid of some of it, but they're like a 30% owner of Biohaven, which has done pretty well as far as a biotech stock, not having any actual drugs for sale. So that was the first thing I bought was Portage, and it was cheap.
And how'd that? Did you have to sit around and wait for it to do something?
Yeah.
Or?
Oh yeah. So I bought it in May, and it really it started. It really started only, I would say maybe a month ago, really actually doing anything. So yeah, I held on to that money for that long. Although, you know, there were a couple of up and down periods, and, you know, I kind of, I was willing to let it go just because the people who were buzzing about it were, they seemed to be, you know, like, I hate to use, so when you go on iHub and you look at the
what, they were pumpers, they were pouring Kool-Aid.
Yeah, right. You look at the Kool-Aid
so you don't have to be
pours.
scared. No, you can call a pumper a pumper. They know what they're doing. You don't have to.
There's a certain tone to it. Like, you can, you know, if you've seen it a couple times, you know it right away. Even the text, what it sounds like. You know, and I wasn't getting that from the people who are, you know, excited and seem to be, you know, really high on the whole ported situation. So, I mean, took it with a grain of salt. My initial investment wasn't really that much, but I did buy up here and there, and, you know, I got up to probably, like, you know, I would say, like, maybe like 11,000 shares or something like that at 30 cents. So, I mean, nothing like super crazy, but, you know, this is kind of my initial foray into it. And then, so with it not really doing anything, maybe a couple of penny raises here and there, a couple of penny drops here and there, basically moving sideways. That's when I was like, well, my money's all tied up here. Why don't I start maybe getting involved in some shorter trades? So that's actually, you know, that's when I started with IC. So that was my, you know, that was my, and like I said, I'd watched a couple of your videos and kind of got into what you were saying, especially since, you know, Midwesterners, I don't know, I don't know what it is about us. We just kind of attract each other.
I would say we all kind of gravitate together somehow. Who knows how it happens, but must be something in the milk or whatever it is.
Yeah,
but,
the milk.
Yeah, it's those Wisconsin cows.
Yep.
Jeez.
So obviously this is kind of your first, you know, you had opened this account. This is drastically different than trading in your IRA or your 401k. So at some point, I'm going to venture to guess, I mean, did you stay trading these biotech penny stocks, or did you kind of say my money could be better utilized elsewhere? You know, obviously this had to have led you somewhere. And what kind of conclusions did you come from after kind of doing that trade?
Well, so yeah, I mean, it led me to the path of thinking that I could do much better, you know, on a daily or maybe just a shorter swing type of time frame, you know, so yeah, I mean, so
it essentially led you to the inner circle. Then is like you were saying. So you signed up there. So you were totally out of that trade then by the time you had signed up for the inner circle.
Oh no.
Okay, all right. So I get what you're saying. So correct me if I'm wrong. You were just like, man, I'm just sitting here. This trade's going on forever. Because it's going on forever, I'd like to do some short-term trading, and therefore that led you down to the inner circle. Is that essentially how it all unfolded?
That's exactly how it unfolded.
Perfect. So you are still in the trade when you join inner circle. So you join inner circle, and you're coming in there with the goal of wanting to trade quickly. So were you, I guess, what was your plan? Did you just hop in the chat room and start buying any ticker symbols you saw? Did you sit back? But where did things go after you had, you know, joined originally? Or I should say initially.
Well, yeah, so I think the big thing for me was, you brought it up a couple of weeks ago, about not knowing what you don't know.
Oh, yes, a very popular topic.
Well,
a very good one too.
Exactly.
Well, for me, finally getting in the chat room and kind of looking at what was going on, I realized that I don't know anything. I have no knowledge of what to do whatsoever.
Well, that's a big realization, though. So now that was a big no that you figured out, right?
Yeah. Well, so I should add to that, like prior to that, I had swing traded a couple different things, and basically very small amounts, but broke even, right? So some of them were bad, got out. Some of them were good, probably got out too early, didn't really have the chart reading knowledge or anything like that to guide me. So it was just kind of a guessing game. So, I know it's a popular topic, the guessing game, right? I'm not much of a gambler. I'll do like playing craps, but I don't like, if I lose a couple $100, I'm like, okay, that's time to have a beer. You know?
Peace out.
I'm not comfortable at all with just throwing a big fat wad of cash down on a table and on black. That's not my thing, right? So it was a little nerve-wracking for me, especially in the sense that I had kind of no idea what I was doing, and B, I knew I could be a lot smarter about it, so I wasn't really sure like why I think I really wanted to get some get my nails in the dirt, get my hands in the dirt,
get your hands dirty. Yeah. So all right, so here's my question, because I'm curious. You show up and to give full credit, good job. You realize, oh wow, I don't know what I'm doing. That's essentially what you learned by joining the chat room and observing. Yeah. So after you made that realization, did you still do trades with real money?
Yeah.
Okay. So what walk me through the logic here, just because that's a fascinating, you may sound crazy. Now I get the voices. I understand the voices, but to a listener, that's going to sound like you're an absolute nutcase. I mean, here this guy is, he says he doesn't know what he's doing, but then he's still trading with real money. So how did your mind justify that? What was your thought process?
Well, I realize it sounds insane, and it kind of, for the most part, is insane. But I guess there's a real desire for me to learn by way of error. And maybe it's a fault. I don't know, but I think from a standpoint of so I felt like that the dollar amounts that I was and really in a sense wagering at that point were insignificant enough that it it wasn't going to break me or anything like that, which that's kind of everybody's fear, right? It's being bankrupted by stupid decisions,
going bust, right?
So I mitigated that by just keeping the dollar amounts to I want to say a reasonable level. So I don't know if that makes any sense to your listeners, if that's if it's dumb, if it's smart. I don't really know.
Correct me if I'm wrong though. You essentially had a monetary stop loss. You said, I'm willing to lose this much, whether it's logical or not. That's kind of what you're saying, right?
Right.
And it fits the bill in terms of you're trying to stay in the game. You're not willing to blow your whole wad on one trade. So totally logical, but I'm gonna venture to say you kind of learned a lot in terms of kind of where you should be placing your stops or how you should be sizing your trades as time went on. Is that right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And one thing I want to add too about why is I think it's for me, it's out that there's been my whole life I've pretty much been a kind of a jack of all trades, right? So I've never really kind of poured my heart into anything. I've gotten real good at lots of different things, but this I want to master, and I really felt like I was gonna learn the most from making mistakes, like what not to do. Like I learn a lot of times in the chat room, if I have time to pay attention, there's a lot of lessons as to what not to do. The other part of it too is I wanted to get a feel for I want to get a feel for what the process actually is. I wanted to get more fluid with the platform, and more decisive as far as trusting my instincts, even though instincts might not be the best way to go. I wanted to see where that was going to take me. I wanted to know how that was going to do for me, and what value that way of thinking has, as far as trading goes.
So
I realize it may not be much. But.
What I'm looking on the outside looking at it, I'm not saying that everybody does this or this is the results for everybody, but essentially and I get it. I'm going to start small so I can go with my instincts. But my counter argument to that would be, what instincts? That's like the equivalent of somebody going up to bat against you as a pitcher saying, I'm going to go up and I'm going to hit the ball by using my instincts, but I've never played baseball before. You would be insulted as a pitcher saying, what a sec. What instincts are you going to use to hit me as a pitcher? You never even heard of a curveball before. Like, have you ever heard of
Well, it's an easy out. So
yeah, exactly. Easy out. Exactly. So to hear that you're using your instincts, what instincts are you using? If, as you know, I get it. You want to learn by making mistakes, but and I have videos out there on this, and that's why I'm gonna. This brings up my question: is what you're doing? I get it. I'm just going small, so I'm not going to have to live under a bridge or anything like that. But that's where bad habits start to creep in, because when you don't know what you don't know, when you don't know how exactly you should be trading, you may be doing trades, you may be following what you think are instincts, but they're just going to ultimately turn out to bad habits. So, I mean, are you still, I guess, where are you at right now with things? Are you still struggling? Or, because I can see you potentially, like, yeah, I struggle with this or I struggle with that, and maybe just talking out loud, maybe the beginning of that was when you're sitting back here trying to trade on your instincts, although you don't even have any instincts because you don't know what you're doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, total sense. So I haven't made a trade in a couple of months.
Okay, all right. Well, there's a start. There's a very good start then. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, well, I should say I closed my portage position today.
Did you? Because of this podcast, or just was that a coincidence?
Well, no, it was a coincidence.
Because of the podcast, of course. Yeah. Of course, Clay.
Of course, yes. No, well, you know what? It was a 25% gain for me, even though between Friday and today, it dropped a good 20%. So I was almost 50% up on that buy. But on the bad news today for Biohaven, it basically, it traded in concert right with Biohaven, and they lost a good 12% today. So I thought it was maybe a lucky decision. Maybe it was smart. I did my due diligence. And maybe it'll go back up. I don't know, but I felt like today was the time to get out. So yeah. I mean, I essentially have 100% cash in my account now, and I'm hoping by possibly the end of the month to be enrolled in CTU.
So you are not Clay Trader University right now.
No,
okay, so to you listeners out there,
podcast over. I'm just kidding.
To all of you that are like, all you ever do is have on CTU people, so that you here's just an inner circle person. Okay, Ches and I, we've talked about this many times before. The history of this show is it was just intended for inner circle people, but I've heard it many times before. Throwing all. I thought this was supposed to be inner circle. I said, well, here we go. Here's just an inner circle person. So this is just. Well,
point proven.
Yeah, point proven. Exactly. So, okay. Well, that's good. So it sounds like you have a ball in motion, and this is last week we're talking to you don't know this, but Ches and I know this. We're talking to Carl, and Carl's doing very well, and now the pendulum is swung the other way, where you're really just truly still getting your feet wet. I mean, you made a good 25% trade, but now you're all cash, and you're still definitely in the opening stages of your journey. Is that a fair assessment on my part?
I mean, yeah, that's a That's 100% correct, Clay.
Okay.
And I have barely got my toes.
And there is nothing wrong with that. And it's a situation where we all start new. So it's not like I hope that Ches and I or me in particular, we're not like coming across like, oh geez, you're brand new. No, we all start brand new.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I started by paying, I don't remember, $60 to buy, $60 to sell. Have you paid $120 in commission since you've started?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
No,
yeah.
If you've only traded with TDA, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so no, there's unless TDA has $60 fees that I'm not familiar with, then yeah. My point is, you haven't done anything nearly as stupid as I have, and I mean, heck, you were smart enough to at least get out with that 25% gain. So, I guess we know that you want to get Clay Trader University. That's awesome. So, in the interim, are you just going to sit back and observe the chat room? Are you going to pick up some, trading psychology books? I guess what is your plan up until you can get Clay Trader University?
Yeah. Good question. So, I mean, I work during the day. It's kind of hard for me to put, 100% of my undivided attention into the chat room. But when I do get the opportunity to, I really like. First of all, let me say this: chat room. So that's like I go way back. I go back to IRC. Nate might not even be old enough to remember what that is.
Ches might know. Ches, I have no idea.
Pound fine scrim. I mean, I use this IRC all the time when I used to play video games. But yeah, no, I'm well familiar with IRC. It's funny you mentioned that. I don't think anybody's ever brought that up.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm familiar. Like, so chat rooms I'm no stranger to. I want to say, like, you guys have a really good thing going on with your chat room. There's a lot of
our chat room. You are part of the community. Our chat room, we have a good thing on, and you are an asset to it. So we're all building blocks of it.
My bad. A lot of really interesting, cool people.
Interesting. How polite of you. I want to make you call the people who you consider interesting, but we won't do that here. But I agree. There are. Yeah, we have some interesting characters.
I meant interesting in a good general sense.
Well, I mean interesting, and yeah, they're a very unique individual. And if you're, as a listener, thinking, I wonder if I'm one of those, all I'll say is maybe you have a guilty conscience. I don't know, but yeah, I mean it in both senses. So, but that's nice of you to keep it on the polite side. Ches, I want to bring in Ches here. We do have some unique people, right?
We have more than a fair share of unique people, but I think it also takes certain types of folks generally who come into this. I don't know. We have people from all walks of life.
We really do.
Have a lot of. We have. I mean, all over the map. We have people with PhDs and doctorates to people who haven't even graduated high school to, like, I mean, all walks of earth. Especially, I know most of the listeners out there think we just cherry pick engineers. Well, Clay actually does, but I don't. I promise you, we have a bunch of people with different professions. But it's always cool to hear how various people kind of get involved in the market and what actually drew them in, and because it's a challenge for everyone. Depending on, some people are, Clay, no offense, you're very conservative in terms of your risk. You've also been doing this for a long time. We have people who are super aggressive with their risk. Everyone kind of finds their own challenge in it. It's just a matter of pretty much playing the long game, though. It's not blowing up your account or doing anything foolish and finding out how to kind of have long-term growth and consistency. Am I talking crazy here? Or?
No, that's good stuff. And when I say unique, I'm not like these people are. I've hung out with a couple of them through meet and greets, and so I don't mean unique in a bad sense. They're just unique people, and that's just kind of the beauty of the community.
So what strikes me as the common denominator is that everybody seems very genuine about A, themselves, and B, helping others to, that was the thing that struck me about what you guys do versus kind of what else is out there. As far as being part of a trading community, and I don't get the sense that a lot of these communities are communities. Like there isn't a trade-off, not so much of a trade-off, but with you guys, it seems, with us, it seems like there's much more of a I don't know, like a sense for everybody to be on kind of a communal level, and it's not so much about follow what I do or trade like I do, or I mean, because everybody seems to have something different to offer when it comes to trading. Like you spoke about Carl, like he's like scalping, he's scalping volume indexes and stuff like that. That's something that I can't even. Like, that's way beyond my comprehension level.
I promise you with time, though, it won't be. It really all makes sense at some point, but it's all about getting to that point. But no, I hear what you're saying. There's people who trade a ton of different stuff here.
Yeah. Yeah, and, I mean, Forex traders and...
Well, now we have all the Bitcoin stuff. There's people... Ches is now Ches is a cryptocurrency
guilty
trader now, and, yeah, so there really is... Did I offend you with that comment, Ches?
I bought...
Clay, honestly, the reason why I even joined this place was because I made a bunch of money trading Bitcoin.
That's
and then
true. I keep forgetting
had no idea
about
what
that.
to do with it,
Yeah.
and I used those Bitcoin profits to join this community. So I'm not offended at all. But yeah,
That's true. I always forget.
still trade
I keep
cryptos.
forgetting that you were like actually one of the first, not one of the first ever, but you all started in Bitcoin to begin with. Now it's kind of like full circle. I feel like the Circle of Life song should be playing right now from The Lion King. You know what I'm saying, Ches?
No,
yeah. Well, I was gonna say, hang on, just a second. So Clay made fun of me on the other podcast for saying somebody did a full 360 when in reality I was supposed to say they did a nice 180. Went
true.
from trading poorly to trading well. This is an example, Clay, of the full 360. Started trading Bitcoin, traded a bunch of other stuff, still back to Bitcoin now. So that is a full 360. So I guess I was a couple podcasts ahead, but there it is. And now I'm right.
Yeah, I passed up buying Bitcoin right when it was about 250, and I could have, kicked myself in the you-know-what.
Yeah, I mean, I could also, like, when I came out of my mother's womb in the early 80s, been like, hey, Mom, buy some Microsoft, like, ASAP.
Yeah.
But, the hindsight, it's a cruel game. But it is. So I guess as looking up at the time, we'll start to wrap things up here, but... Because this is pretty interesting. You are inner circle, but you're not Clay Trader University, but that's in your plans. So going into Clay Trader University, what are some things, Ches, I'll let him ask you the fun part. I'll ask you kind of we won't call them weaknesses, but since you have been trading a little bit with a small size, and we've talked about that, have you noticed anything where like, I really need to work on that? Or, I mean, what are some things that you're aware of that you want to be focused on as you kind of go into this next stage of learning and education? So some weaknesses that you're self-aware about.
Yeah, I would say I probably have a tendency to jump a little too quick. You know what I mean? When I'm looking at pre-market movement, I'm looking at something, or I look at something and I'm like, oh, let me just buy that right out of the gate. Let me just dump a bunch of money into that before seeing what it's gonna do. And I would say like that's probably it's gonna be my biggest hurdle with trading, is to just step back a little bit.
The slow down
before making a decision. Slow down, yeah.
It's tough, and trust me, I've been there before, but I promise you, for every missed opportunity, there's going to be 10 more around the block, and some are going to be even better. But yeah, I understand the feeling. It's just you want to be there. You see what you perceive as an opportunity, but it might not actually be as rosy and good as it looks. What were you saying, Clay?
That's just one of the cruel jokes of the market is, in order to have any sort of success in the market, you have to be an ambitious person by default. But being ambitious in the market can cause you to, describe exactly, what Chris just did. And you're a little too antsy because by nature you are ambitious. And I mean, you don't play college sport at any level without being an ambitious person to begin with. So, just one of those cruel jokes that the market tosses in our face.
Yeah.
But Ches, take strengths.
So, Chris, what would you say are, since we hardly beat you up there, we've really kind of laid it on past guests before, so that was actually pretty nice. You got pretty lucky. You're lucky you caught Clay before dinner or after dinner or whatever it is. You're in a melancholy mood. But so what would you say are your strengths? So what do you do well that you're kind of looking forward to kind of getting even better at?
Yeah, so just to go back a little bit, you guys don't really know a whole lot about me. I don't really know a whole lot about you guys. I think that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do the podcast, was maybe to get a little bit better acquainted with you guys and possibly, introduce myself and all that stuff. So there isn't a whole lot of you guys don't have a lot of dirt on me, I mean, so what could you possibly land me with? But
keep
no,
talking.
I mean, like
I'm taking notes over
some,
here. You just keep talking. I'm on my second notebook already.
I've made some dumb decisions. I'm like, oh yeah, I know what Dust and Nugget are gonna do. Yeah, I've been watching it for weeks. I know exactly what it's gonna do. We're talking about 3x.
Leveraged
gold miners.
Yeah, exactly. Not for the faint of heart.
Leverage ETFs, right? No, I'm like, yeah, I know what that's gonna do. Yeah, I got this. I mean, trust me, I made some pretty stupid trades so far, but I have backed it up with what I feel like is, at least a somewhat of a smart way of trading, which is to, like a lot of day traders do, is watch charts, watch patterns, try to get a sense of what it's doing right now, as opposed to what anyone quote unquote thinks it's going to do, and that's I think that's one of the the things that's going to help me out a lot in the future, is that it's not going to be hard for me to trade robotically. I'm just I may need to take a step back here and there, but analysis is kind of like second nature to me. I work in IT. I've been a systems administrator for 5 or 6 years now. It's kind of it's just second nature to me. So yeah, I mean, it's not something that would be foreign to me. Like, I'm not a gambler. I don't have any desire to quote unquote strike it rich. I would eventually like to be a full-time trader. I mean, that's that would be a couple years down the road, but that's definitely something that I have my sights set on, and hopefully I have the the emotions in check a little bit better than what I do on the pitcher's mound.
Well, and there's a huge difference between I want to be driving my Porsche to my yacht, then take my yacht to my private island. That's where I want to be.
Yeah.
But that's not what you're saying. You're just would you like to be a full-time trader?
No.
Yeah, but there's a big difference between wanting to be and a full-time trader does not mean you're driving yachts and Lamborghinis and helicopters and all that stuff. Full-time traders, they're pretty modest livers, despite what marketing and such can portray. It's just it is what it is. So I would say that that is definitely a strength from observing. Is you never once struck me as somebody that was greedy, somebody that got into all this to make riches and all that sort of stuff. You just got into it more so, it sounds like, for kind of a challenge, and just because your grandpa kind of was chirping in your ear at a young age.
That was a big part of it. Yeah.
So,
and to see him, he was kind of devastated, losing all that money. It was, I think he kind of felt like, maybe he could have done something better, and when you have a guy that you feel like you trust, it's tough to swallow that. I think, and I think he had a hard time swallowing it too. I mean, he set all of his grandkids up with IRAs when they turned 18. Like, he's one of those guys he's very generous, very very bright, intelligent. I learned a lot from the guy. He's a really really bright, very thorough, generous, honest. I mean, you want like virtues like galore. I mean, and then it struck me as being almost sad, in a sense that he had to endure that, but in a way though that's kind of that's kind of what the market is. I mean, it's a little bit of a roller coaster ride, but I think there's a way to there's a way to soften the hills a little bit, and that's just, I think, by being first of all, by having the knowledge, that's the big thing for me, is having the knowledge. The second thing is going into it with a clear head. That's really that's the way you kind of make it much more of a uphill or a downhill.
Well, I think you said it perfectly. You want to soften the hills. That was beautifully said, because that is really the goal. The market is indeed a roller coaster, and however we can soften the hills, that is definitely the goal. Yeah. So you said you listen to other podcasts, and I believe you. So you know that Ches has a time machine. And I'm going to go ahead and speak for Ches and just lend it out for him, because he likes when I lend out his stuff. But if Ches were to lend you his time machine and you could go back to, I guess really whenever, whether that be when you're talking with your grandpa, or if you want to fast forward when you're talking with your buddies, and give yourself one bit of advice, what would that bit of advice be?
Oh, you know what? I'm 43 years old. I look back at the past 20 years as a little bit of a wasted opportunity to start. I'm not going to say I was born to be a trader, but for me it's a lot of different things wrapped into one. It's the opportunity to use the analytical skills, and to use the God-given intelligence that I have. And also, it's very fun, and there's a fun element to it. It's not boring, that's for sure. So I mean, it's definitely, like, that would be the one thing I would say to my 12-year-old self is get into it, man. I mean, don't be scared by the fact that it's a lot of things that you don't understand. And that you couldn't possibly understand, because you can. You know what I mean? It's just a matter of really
limiting
putting your
beliefs.
Mind to it.
That's what it is. You think you can't do it, but in reality, you can do a lot more than you can even comprehend. But first off, let me tell you this, though. Me and Clay both had no idea you were in your 40s, and this is why I bring that up, is because age is just a number. You're totally, in my opinion, you are totally a young man ready to kind of take the game on. So by no means are you you don't sound like you're down and out.
Yeah, exactly.
I've let my life come by. You're like, hey, I'm ready to start the next chapter. Here we go. Like, I'm a firm believer. Age is just a number. I get it. There's a clock running on for all of us, unless we invent some crazy stuff that's going to keep us alive forever, which I don't even want to think about that. But anyways, you're here now, and that's the point. Everybody gets here when they get here. Doesn't really matter. Right. We just had a podcast with how old was what's his name, 84 or something? Who
Ron,
just got into trading?
Ron?
Early
Ron,
80s, yeah. So, I mean, it's anyways, anyone can get into this, and you're totally nailed in the sense that it's a challenge for everybody, and every single day is interesting, except sometimes during the summer when there's nothing to trade. But otherwise, to take it to the fun questions, and the only question that matters to Clay is, what is your favorite movie?
Oh, geez. Okay, so before I give you the answer to that, I should tell you that I graduated from college with a degree in film. I have a minor in English and a minor in computer science. What actually, like my lifetime goal was to work in movies.
Interesting.
So I'm a bit of a film snob.
Oh, great. Are you just like, are you drinking your cup of tea right now with your pinky up, and you think like, okay,
no.
All right.
No, actually, okay. So I can, if you give me a minute or two, I can elaborate on it. Right. So my favorite movie of all time, Akira Kurosawa, Seven Samurai. Do you guys know anything about that movie, or have you seen it?
I do now, but it sounds like it'd be right up my alley.
Yeah, I have heard nothing.
Okay, so you know the movie The Magnificent Seven?
Yeah, the Western. Yep.
Yeah, the Western, right? So basically, it's a ripoff of Seven Samurai.
So it's samurais, but instead of a Western, it's just samurai days. Yeah,
sure. What's that in the 1700s or 1600s or something like that? And yeah, no. So I'm a big Japanese movie fan. I like Kurosawa a lot. I do watch some anime. I'm not like super into it like some people, but yeah. I mean, like I like all kinds of movies. Don't get me wrong, but that was always my like. Like, oh, this is awesome. Like, this is everything that I love about movies, and that that Seven Samurai. Kurosawa's got a lot of great movies too. A lot of very thought-provoking movies. So maybe not, for some of his work, maybe a little bit on the thought-provoking side, too much, but definitely a lot of action in his movies, and people who like action movies, as you watch his movies, you get a general sense of how things developed to what we watch now from that point, because he was doing it in the 50s. He was doing the choreographed fight scenes and very elaborate gymnastic type choreography with his actors, and there's a real famous Japanese actor, Toshiro Mifune, who's kind of like the Charlie Chaplin of Japanese film. Really cool to see him kind of do his thing in that movie too. So I would definitely recommend everybody see Seven Samurai. A lot of George Lucas took a lot from Seven Samurai too, so it's definitely things that people can relate to. It's just one of those things where you don't hear about like some of these older movies because they're older movies. It's like, oh, this is an old movie. Oh, who wants to watch this? It's an old movie. Let's put Spider-Man on. But there's actually a lot to learn from some of the older stuff. I would definitely recommend it.
Well,
okay, so my rant.
No, that was no rant away. That was I didn't realize that guy was doing all that stuff back in the 50s. But yeah, he definitely was ahead of the game. Food wise though, what
way ahead.
You're up in Wisconsin, so I guess you can't. Well, I'll be stereotypical here, but that's all right. You're just right across. We're basically neighbors. You're right across the lake, so
across the pond. Yeah.
So besides cheese, besides beer, what do you like to eat food-wise up in Wisconsin, or I should really say over in Wisconsin?
Well, you forgot to say besides bratwurst too, because that's just standard.
Oh, I don't know. I don't associate. I associate. This is so. I associate bratwurst with Germans, but I'm German, so I can get away with that stereotype, I think. But
yes.
Okay,
definitely.
but yeah, I didn't know that bratwurst were associated with. I just think of cheese. But anyway, food-wise, what do you like to eat food-wise?
Yeah, my favorite meal of all time is I got to go with the smoked beef brisket, man. That's especially the burnt ends.
You can't. That's America right there.
Kelly and I just had burnt ends for the first time earlier this year, and I was like, wow, we've really been, I know, shun me, shame.
I just feel bad for you. I'm not going to shun you. I just feel pity.
Time.
We just had it, and we were like, our lives kind of changed, but it's probably a good thing I've avoided for all those years, or I'd be the size of a house. But
it's not good for you.
Yeah. So what do you do for fun and hobbies, kind of outside of getting interested in trading?
So I've been playing baseball for years. I still do that, pretty fairly regularly. Besides that, I bowl. Well, everybody from Wisconsin bowls. I play golf. I'm a recovering gameaholic. So, that's
what kind of games? Like
first-person
shooter?
Struggle with my. Actually, so
did that even make sense? Because did that question
multiplayers.
make sense? So did you as a gamer? Hey, all right, Ches, yes. I'm coming along. You got to be proud of me there. I'm actually talking a little video game lingo. I'm patting myself.
You're real
on the
hip
back.
and jive with the kids these days, my man.
Yeah.
No, I'm a massive multiplayer fan from back to Ultima days, Ultima Online. I was just short of becoming a beta tester for that game, and so I did that for quite a few years. When I had time in my 20s and early 30s, and then I just kind of gave it up. I was like, so now I just kind of putz around with it every now and then.
Nice.
That's my gamer status at this point.
Awesome. Well, that'll always be when you get more and more involved in trading. You can kind of pull what Hooch does and what quite a few other do. When you don't want to force a trade, just pull up on another tab, one of those video games, and you can just distract yourself from forcing a trade. So that'll become a valuable asset later on down the road. Final question here, though. 3 words. These three words need to, what you would associate with what you'd consider to be successful, a successful trader. So what would those three words be?
I would say many less migraines.
Many less migraines.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to take the headache out of working every day. I mean, it's a headache. I mean, not that it's not work trading, it is. But it's just, it becomes a grind. I just don't want it to be. I don't want my later years to be that kind of a grind anymore. I'd like to relax a little bit when I want to.
Hey, well, it sounds like that whole little phrase has got quite a bit of meaning to you, and I buy it. I'll go along on the premise. Yeah, if that's what you associate with migraines, then yeah, I would want to get rid of those too. So that's good motivation.
Well, I would say, yeah, less headaches. I mean, that's work for me. I do managed service. I work with a bunch of different clients. It's always, if you work in IT, you guys probably know, your tech guys. You're either right and nobody gives you do what you do well and nobody cares about you, or you do something wrong and it's the end of everybody's world. So that's what I have to deal with on a daily basis. Nobody cares about me unless something's going wrong.
So yeah, you're like an engineer. When my phone, when I was an engineer, was not ringing, that was good. No news is good news, yeah. And I can totally see that. So, well, Chris, we got to wrap things up here, and like I said, this is a interesting spot. I can't say that we've never ever had people in your exact situation, but I always enjoy these because when we come, assuming of course that you would come back, it'll be really interesting to see the progress that you've made and kind of where you stand and things. So hopefully you would be willing to come back, and next time, ideally speaking, it won't take us 4 attempts to make it happen. So but thank you very much for hanging out with us, I guess when we were recording it this evening, but thank you for hanging out with us.
Well, thank you guys for having me on. It's been great. I'm really looking forward to the next time we do it. Hopefully I'll have some trading stories that are maybe a little bit more relevant. But yeah, it was really nice getting to know you guys and chit-chatting and all that stuff. See you in the chat room.
Sure. So for you listeners out there, before we go, final few things here. First, if you're listening on YouTube, check out the rest of the channel. There's a lot of other different types of videos, live trade videos, chart analysis. I lied. Chart analysis videos are no longer on this channel. They're on Clay Trader video charts, so that is a secondary YouTube channel. But yeah, check out the channel. Hopefully you ultimately decide to subscribe. If you're listening on iTunes or any of the other podcast players, make sure to subscribe. And also, especially on iTunes, if you could leave us a rating, that really helps Ches and I out quite a bit. And then finally, if you're listening on the website itself, on the show notes page, click that share button, and if you want to interact with us, leave us comments down below, and we will read those and get back to you. So as always, we appreciate you as listeners. Thank you, Ches. Thank you, Chris. We'll see you back next week.
This has been the Stock Trading Reality Podcast. Thanks for taking the time to hang out. To learn more about Clay and the Clay Trader community, including the trading team, premium training, and more, visit claytrader.com.